we will have a faster growing economy, which we absolutely need. I mean, we need 2% to cover the unemployment. And if we don't get that, at least that, we are going backwards, so we must get much more.
Love how you say faster growing economy with such gusto. Let's hope that is the case from the Reserve Bank side. Martin Creamer there, thank you very much. You'll be back at the Coalface at the same time next Friday. Thank you so much for listening. Sakina Kamwendo should be back with you between 12 and 1 on Updated Noon here on SAFM, leading the conversation as always. From my side, Udo Karelse. Let's keep the conversation going at Udo Karelse SA. As well, you'll find me on X.
Top stories at 1 o'clock. Ramokgopa withdraws nuclear power procurement process and AKA murder suspects to be extradited to South Africa. Good afternoon. The Electricity and Energy Minister, Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, has withdrawn an earlier government gazette for the procurement of 2,500 megawatts of nuclear energy generation. The move comes after EarthLife Africa, the South African Faith Community and Environment Institute, interdicted the process. They've argued that there's been insufficient public participation. Ramokgopa says although government received concurrence from the National Energy Regulator of South Africa to start the procurement, the process will be halted for a second public participation. Speaking in a media briefing in Pretoria, Ramokgopa said the applicants had requested more transparency.
The last thing we want is to do a major build program on the back of suspicion that the department and government is hiding something from the public. So I said we are going to democratize this process, we are going to make it transparent, and on the basis of that, I then directed that it is important that we accede to that request. Essentially saying to council, we are agreeing on what EarthLife Africa is saying and the other party, that this process must be subjected to an additional, if you like, a public participation process.
The High Court in Pretoria has dismissed the stay of prosecution application of two accused in the VBS Mutual Bank saga. The court has, however, granted them relief to have a separate trial. The former ANC Limpopo Treasurer Danny Msiza and the party's former Youth League leader Kabelo Matsipe are among the 13 people facing criminal charges related to the collapse of VBS Bank. Almost 2 billion rand was looted from the bank. The state is not happy with the trial separation and it intends to appeal the judgment. The matter has been postponed to the 9th of next month. The National Prosecuting Authority spokesperson Mthunzi Maga.
We are disappointed with the ruling that relates to the separation of trials. It's going to be very prejudicial to the state. One, it's going to overstretch the resources of the state because you will have witnesses that will be brought in twice. You will have a new judge coming in. You will have new court officials that would have to assist in respect of the two trials. But of importance to us and concerning is the fact that our witnesses will have to testify twice, and that's unfair to them. But we are appealing this judgment.
The two siblings accused of the murders of Keenan aka Forbes and his friend Tibello Tibbs Motwane will be extradited from Eswatini to South Africa following the ruling of the Manzini Magistrates Court. Siyabonga and Malusi Ndimande are wanted in South Africa for the murders of Forbes and Motwane. The siblings are accused of two other murders in separate cases. Nhlanhla Jele reports.
When the judgment was being read, we didn't see the defense opposing or saying anything. Instead, they accepted it. Magistrate David Khumalo told the court that some of the submissions that were made by the defense throughout this court appearances on behalf of the two accused are actually not fit for an extradition application, but they're fit for a criminal court case. So we saw him saying that according to the National Director of Public Prosecutions, the formal extradition application says South Africa has enough evidence for a conviction.
The Solicitor General, Fedzisani Pandelani, says they do not have a legal mandate to act on the claim of the Socio-Economic Rights Institution for constitutional damages for the 320 members of families that the institution represents. SERI has claimed financial reparations for its clients that it says were left traumatized following the Marikana massacre 12 years ago. Pandelani says the courts must first determine the matter of SERI's new claim of constitutional reparations, as the Justice Department could be accused of misusing taxpayers' funds.
There is none of those matters from the 320 that requires perhaps the minister or at least the principals within justice to make a decision to settle or not to settle. If settlement is to be reached based on a court decision, the baseline budget that is going to be implicated will be that of another government department, and normal processes will have to be followed. But as at the current moment, their instructions are there is no recognition of constitutional damages, and to the extent that that is so, they'll be guided by the outcome of the court.
Several regional leaders have started arriving in Harare, Zimbabwe for the 44th SADC Heads of States and Government Summit tomorrow. They include the presidents of Tanzania, Malawi, as well as the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Lesotho. Some civic society organizations meeting in Harare ahead of the summit are calling for the revival of the SADC Tribunal or formation of a new entity which could be mandated to hold member countries accountable for their actions. Political commentator Tony Rila says an independent body is required to hold the executive accountable.
One of the key institutions that SADC had was the SADC Tribunal. So instead of SADC countries accusing each other, there's this not very pleasant fracas between Zimbabwe and Zambia. Now, if you had a SADC tribunal and Zimbabwe was unhappy about the SIOM report, they could go to the SADC tribunal. They've got rid of the body, and that's because they fear accountability. That's my view. So they don't want to hold each other accountable. They're just happy with the arrangement. You've got some high-flying rhetoric. The reality is very different.
And finally, a judge in the U.S. city of Detroit has been temporarily taken off the bench after he forced a 15-year-old girl to wear handcuffs and a jail uniform because she appeared to fall asleep during a field trip to his court. District Court Judge Kenneth King said he didn't like Eva Goodman's attitude and said he wanted to show her how she should conduct herself in a courtroom. The teenager was visiting the 36th District Court for a trip that the environmental charity The Greening had organized. Recapping the top story, the Electricity and Energy Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa has withdrawn an earlier government gazette for the procurement of 2,500 megawatts of nuclear energy generation. For SFM News, I'm Utsile Saku, back with headlines at 1:30.
It's Elimination Week on the Tastemaster Junior. This Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2 as the bottom 6 bake to stay in the competition. It's all about desserts as the contestants recreate their versions of a family favorite, warm and comforting pudding. But will it be enough to impress the judges and earn them a spot in the next round? That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday at 7. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Paying your TV license means that you can tune in to the Expresso Morning Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Mondays to Fridays right here on S3. Enjoy our entertainment, recipes, and important current affairs and updates. All of this for less than 74 cents a day or 265 Rand for an entire year. For super fast, secure, and convenient payment from any device, go onto tvlrc.co.za and click on the Fast Pay button for payment in under 3 minutes. Make a difference with Expresso and TV licenses and pay yours.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
oh so bad inside. You can't deny it. You can't stop crying. So if you stop breathing, one of these days you gon' say, you won't believe it. You feel so much better. One more time. Hey, yeah, all the ladies say, yeah. So when my garbage bag, lady, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. What about the grocery bag, lady? But your love can make it better. I'm talking to my Gucci bag, lady. Let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. What about my paper sack, lady? But your love can make it better. What about my nickel bag, lady? Let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. Backpack on your back, lady. But your love can make it better. What about my booty bag, lady? Let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. How about the cheaper sack, baby? That your love can make it better. So what about the plastic bag, lady? Let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. My baby bag, mama, yeah. Let's go, let it go, let's go, let's go. My book bag, lady. Let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. Ziploc bag, lady. Let it go, let it go, let it go.
Is it just, it's wonderful when you start tracing the roots of a song, right, or an artist, especially when it's documented and archived, and so you end up down this rabbit hole of fabulous information that connects so many incredible people. For instance, this particular song coming out of Erykah Badu's second studio album, Mama's Gun, which was released at the beginning of the year 2000, which was recorded at the Electric Lady Studios in New York. And then it turns out that the Electric Ladies Studios in Greenwich Village in New York, it's quite a funky area. If you've been to New York, then you're quite familiar with Greenwich Village. The studio was actually commissioned by rock and roll legend Jimi Hendrix back in 1968, and he only really spent about 10 weeks or so recording in the studio himself before he passed away. And it was designed by the architect John Stork, who is quite like a renowned architect internationally, and his niche is designing private studios for artists, because he's also a bit of a musician over and above being an architect himself. And so he's designed studios for the likes of Jay-Z, the likes of Bruce Springsteen, Alicia Keys, Whitney Houston, Bob Marley, Aerosmith, Green Day, Goo Goo Dolls, R. Kelly, and so the list goes on and on and on. And I love it when, you know, you open sort of one door and it leads you to the next door and the next door and the next door, and you realize just how incredible sometimes creatives are when they come together and connect, you know, and how everyone's stories lives through the collaboration with each other and between each other to make things that are just magical. So that is how we open up the show today with Erykah Badu's Bag Lady. I hope you're having a fabulous Friday afternoon. The weather is holding up beautifully outside. You know, we always preempt this and we always say that we've sort of edging into summer. At least I tend to go, ooh, I get excited that summer's around the corner. And just as the words leave my mouth, we then have a cold snap. So I'm reluctant to say that summer is around the corner, but it's definitely giving summer vibes today. I think we could have firmly closed the door to winter, and we're ready to usher in, they call it Vezitanga season on social media. If you want to to know what that translates to, well, you can always grab somebody who speaks vernacular and they can tell you. Coming up on the show, because it is Friday, we take things nice and easy. We're wrapping up the work week and getting ready for the weekend ahead. On Fridays, we skew towards the more creative and the more artistic of guests, and today's no different. We're rediscovering self-love in the kitchen, and we're going to be catching up with the published author Chantal Lascarius is joining us, and she is the author of 4 successful cookbooks on a variety of food themes, and we're going to be indulging in that conversation. Local is definitely lacquer today, and we're taking a look at the latest local movie in cinemas, The Bad Bishop. We'll find out more what that story entails. Stages, pages, screens, and more is also coming up, and UJ is returning with a weekend of jazz, and we'll get to hear what's on the cards for 2024. On the other side of 2 o'clock, we catch up with fashion designer turned visual artist Sylvester Falata. He's got an exhibition that's happening at Sixpin Gallery, and we'll find out from him. Remember last week we tried to have a conversation with Luan Lunkulu. She happened to be in KZN, and so our connection was touch and go. Well, she's in Gauteng. She can't come into studio, but we're going to be catching up with her this afternoon quickly, and that's for full access coming up at 2:30. It's just gone 1 o'clock. I hope you are having a fabulous Friday thus far. It's the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Your geyser would have hot water, but some people overloaded the transformer with their illegal connections. You're late again and the robots don't work. Some people vandalized it for copper. The whole community doesn't have electricity because some people have been bridging meters for a small fee, and now the transformer has exploded due to overloading. Don't allow illegal connections by criminals to inconvenience you and your community. Report criminals to ESCOM on 0800 11 2722 or the SAPS. Save your transformer. Save lives.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish, see if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga.
It is the Full Circle on SAFM with myself, Bridget Masinga. And our first guest today is Chantal Lascarius, and she is an author of 4 other successful cookbooks on various themes, from salads to healthy dishes to tapas, and they all form part of a series that is titled All Sorts Series. So allegedly they say that for many of us, the kitchen has become a place of obligation rather than a place where we find enjoyment, and it seems as though the overwhelming process of finding the right ingredients, deciphering all those complex recipes and managing time has turned cooking into a chore. But my guest today, Chantal, believes it doesn't have to be this way. How are you doing this afternoon, Chantal?
I'm doing well, and thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you for taking the time. We sort of, I was reading some borrowed words here around how cooking has become a little bit of a chore. But honestly, between you and I, has it really?
Well, I think what happens is when you're having to cook every single day, and you have to cook every meal, every evening dinner, sometimes we run out of steam and we run out of inspiration. And sometimes we have to dig deep and find different ways of actually approaching how we make our food and embracing it again and actually finding the love again.
I would have thought, and I would have thought, we just played the commercial for MasterChef South Africa, which is returning on air. And I would have thought on the back of shows like MasterChef South Africa and all the many international titles, reality cooking shows that we're seeing around amateur chefs and professional chefs. And of course, lockdown, we all became amateur home chefs, and cooking almost seems to me that it's enjoyed incredible PR over the last 4 or 5 years or so. And I would have thought more and more people suddenly felt reinvigorated to get back into the kitchen.
I certainly think that a lot of those shows have inspired a lot of people. And, people that thought they could never really do very well in the kitchen have seen that you can experiment and have some fun. So I think they've certainly done a lot of good. But also we've got to remember that when we're cooking in the kitchen, we can't just do fun desserts and bake and all of those things. We've actually got to nourish our bodies at the same time.
Well, not to mention the fact that a lot of us are not that creatively inclined. I can't even plate to save my life in the way that I would get, some kind of gold pass at MasterChef. That's for sure. Now, you say that cooking can be an act of self-love, and you encourage us to get back to the basics. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think going back to the concept that sometimes cooking every day can be a chore, I think it's rediscovering our kitchen. And one of the things that I actually love doing and getting into the mood is I put on some nice music, whatever I feel like at the time, whether it's classical and it's more subdued or it's a bit of rock and roll or whatever, and I'm jumping around in the kitchen. I light a candle, I get the ambiance going, and it's amazing how things like that actually stimulate your creativity. And you kind of get into the zone and you get quite excited about what you're doing. And then cooking actually becomes a ritual and you can enjoy the whole experience of it. And I think that's what's important, is to find the fun.
Yeah, I mean, as you paint that pretty picture, and it sounds quite idyllic, right? And then I throw a spanner in the works, Chantal, and I say, as we were pointing out, that a lot of people are just trying to manage their time. And when I say a lot of people, gentlemen, I'm being very biased in this conversation. A lot of women are just trying to manage their time, and they just want quick fixes in the kitchen. So to even think about on an average day, turning on the music, lighting the candle, getting into the mood, a lot of ladies probably just heard you now and said, come on, I don't have time for that, Chantal. How do we then incorporate that same kind of mood swing with little less effort?
Well, I think if you want to make a meal in your 20 minutes or your half an hour that you've actually given yourself to make a meal, you can still put some music on and get yourself into a happier space. But I think it's also all about the type of food that you choose. And the, I like to do dishes where I can cook everything in one pot or in one pan, or I can stick it in the oven and I can get on with other things. So I think it's also about what we choose to make that makes our lives a lot easier. Don't go and start a really fancy recipe that you've never tried before when you don't have enough time. It's about managing our time and, finding quicker ways of doing things. Like I always love using my freezer. Everyone says, well, how can you use your freezer? Why is that your best friend?
Yeah.
And I say, well, things like, you buy pesto sauce, and at the moment it's only my husband and I at home, and you open a little sachet of pesto and you use maybe a tablespoon, and then you say, now what? So I stick them in my ice trays and I freeze them so that I don't have to always go out and buy it, or, I've got it there. It's quick, it's easy. And it's about those sorts of things that make our lives easier.
Yeah. And what inspired you to actually shift your focus, and also attempt to shift our focus by the books that you've put out, from looking at cooking as a chore to really looking at it as an act of self-love? And how does that sort of influence, I guess, the books, as well as influence the narrative that you were championing?
For me, it was actually all about my own health. I had quite a few gut issues that I was struggling with. And I realized that the best way to deal with it wasn't just through medication, but it had to go through what I was actually putting into my body, what I was feeding myself. And that actually started me on this whole journey of eating healthily. And it doesn't have to be a difficult thing to do. You know, in South Africa, we're actually really blessed with the fresh ingredients that we have.
Yeah.
And I'm a big advocate of the Mediterranean way of eating, because so many of the ways and the foods that the Mediterranean diet advocates, we actually have in abundance in South Africa.
Absolutely.
So for me, it's all about, you know, what we put into our bodies. And it helps with our mental health, all those things. It's not just about, you know, the food that we're getting in.
It's so interesting that you talk about the Mediterranean diet, because it just clicked to me a couple of weeks ago. You know, in social media, as South Africans, we all latch on to the same sort of trend. So everybody now, all the celebrities and the personalities are all having a Greece summer this summer, in part facilitated by our fabulous DJs that are playing all of those incredible Mediterranean islands. And so everyone is now discovering via their Instagram stories the Mediterranean diet. And I'm going, oh, so you mean just, you know, what folks who sort of advocate for a more vegan prone diet, people who advocate for more, is it pescatarian diet? I always get that wrong, correct? Essentially, that is what we are saying. And now that everyone's gone off to, you know, the Mediterranean islands, it's like the Mediterranean diet. It's like, okay, we understand the new buzzword, but but you're right, it's a way of life, right? It's a way that people have been enjoying for the longest times, and there's something for us to learn from it.
Definitely. I mean, they've actually done so many studies about the longevity of people who follow the Mediterranean way of eating. You know, they live long, healthy lives. So I think there's a lot to be learned from that way of eating and that sort of philosophy of life. Because often it's not just about what you eat, it's who you eat it with. You know, for the Mediterranean people, it's all about community and eating together, because that helps with your mental state. So, you know, socializing together, eating together, not as a family all sitting on your cell phones, you know, as a family sit down, have a meal together and actually catch up on the day.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing how much better that is for individuals and for families and friends.
Cass in Durban actually just sent me a message pointing out how she's observed that there's hundreds and hundreds of, or there must be hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of students that are just living off takeaway food these days because of the number of delivery bikes that she sees in and around her neighborhood. And I guess it talks to the question of how do we get, like, students, for instance, more conscious about how they engage and interact with food and more excited about food and putting the right kind of food in their systems?
I think students really struggle the most. I think because firstly they've come out of the home environment where things are pretty much done for you, and now suddenly you're on your own and you're having to fend for yourself. So you've got a lot of other things to worry about. But I think there it takes just a little bit of planning, maybe do a little bit of meal prep, so that when you do come home, you've already got something in the fridge waiting for you. You've got healthy snacks in the fridge. So I think it's also, you know, don't always go for the takeout, because they satisfy you for the first sort of 20 minutes or so. But you're going to end up being hungry, you know, quite soon thereafter and not feeling that well.
Yeah. Just as we wrap up, Chantal, just some advice to get moms excited about getting back in the kitchen.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So I think it's about simplifying your lives. You know, we've all got so much on our plate. Find the easiest ways of doing things. So it's, for me, again, it's like using, you know, simplify your meals. You don't have to do, you know, 3 or 4 different veggies. You can put it all into one pot. And that's also a great way. You can hide your veggies from your kids. They don't have to know what's in there. They don't have to always see it. And things like soups. Now, I know we're talking about spring around the corner, but down here in Franschhoek, it's still jolly cold. So things like soups are a great way of sneaking in those veggies and having one dish ready for you, and you've got all your nutrients in there all in one go.
Yeah. Chantal, thank you so much for the time today. I'll definitely be on the lookout for the series of books. That was Chantal Lascarius, and she is an author. 4 really successful cookbooks already on the shelves, focusing on a variety of themes from salads to healthy dishes and one dish wonders and tapas. And you can find them. They're part of a series called All Sorts. So at your most reputable bookstore, you'll be able to locate her books and add to your kitchen collection. It's just gone 1:30. We're going to take a quick break, and then we come back on the other side.
In the headlines at 1:30, the Electricity and Energy Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa has withdrawn an earlier government gazette for the procurement of 2,500 megawatts of nuclear energy generation. Trade union AMCU has expressed a disappointment that no one has been convicted for the deaths of 34 mine workers in Marikana near Rustenburg in the northwest 12 years after the tragedy. And a powerful typhoon is bearing down on the heavily populated Kanto region of Japan, leading to the cancellation of hundreds of flights and bullet trains. Details at 2:00.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
It is a Friday afternoon, so we're taking it easy on our end. We hope that you are doing much the same on yours. And getting ready, getting geared up for the weekend. Interesting to hear from our guest Chantal just now that in Franschhoek they're still very much experiencing cold. It's crazy, right? Weather can be chalk and cheese. And I just remembered that we had some listeners in Cape Town earlier in the week talking about how horrible the weather was in Cape Town, how cold and just bitterly grey it was down there. And that time, we're barely wearing jackets this side of the world because it's so warm, it's so hot. Anyway, our next guest, Joseph Mutapule, is joining us now, and Joseph is the director of The Bad Bishop, which is based on true events about a young man who was raised in the church and later turned to crime as a scammer parading as a fake pastor. Ooh, the story rings so true for so many communities in South Africa. How are you doing, Joseph? You good?
I am good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Very excited to find out more about this local movie, The Bad Bishop. So based on true events, eh?
Yes, based on what's happening in our communities, not very far from us.
Yeah? Was it inspired by a particular person? You don't have to say so.
I don't want to say much, but yeah, we did quite a research and we see what's been happening in these churches.
Yeah.
So we kind of chose one person.
Okay.
Something like, yeah.
And then you just borrowed a few elements here, there, and everywhere else.
Yes.
I hear you. Okay, give us the synopsis. I mean, I just gave one line that, it's around a young man who was raised in the church and then later turned to crime. But give us a little bit more by way of the film synopsis.
Yeah. Basically, this is the story about Kaya, who was born in the church. His father was a pastor in a traditional church, and he was born with the gift of talking. He could talk, but not necessarily that he was anointed to be a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, he was being rented by different pastors to make money just because he can convince congregants so that they can take up more money in offering. Right? Then when he grew up, then he decided to say, to his cousin, to say, why don't we just start our own so that we can make more money for ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it all began. Then he went on and started his own church with his friends. They make so much money. Yeah, basically that's the story. It's about Kaya. Yeah.
No, listen, you don't have to tell us, you don't have to give away the entire plot. So you've tantalized us enough. You definitely don't have to give away the entire plot. I mean, very interesting because this is something that I think, as you said, it's stories that happen in our communities, unfortunately so. And so which means that it's something that South Africans can resonate with. And probably something that audiences would enjoy watching because, you can just close your eyes and almost think of a pastor or a church where similar elements may have happened.
Yeah, something like that. I was just laughing with the producers lately to say, look, it's more like we are prophets, in another way, because whatever that we wrote and produced on the bad bishop, it's happening as in like now as we speak in some places, in some other churches are being banned, and we go back to the bad bishop, the film, the same thing is happening, and we're like, oh, okay. Yeah, basically what we're telling now is a reality.
Yeah. And how was the process of making the film? We often speak to filmmakers, directors, producers, and I know it's not always easy sailing when it comes to making films. How was it for you guys? And was this something that was independently funded?
Yeah, the film was independently funded, but we had financed by the DTIC.
Okay.
Which they normally come with the 50% of the total budget, and we have to come with the 50% of the budget. But it was not as easy because we had to take this film and go shoot it in the Limpopo province, where the film industry is not that huge. And so there would be a lot of challenges shooting this project because we did it in 2021. You can imagine we then finalize it now in 2024. So it was just like a lot. There were a lot of challenges throughout on the making of this project.
Yeah. Why Limpopo?
Basically, I would say...
I know you come from there.
The thing is that I grew up wanting... where I grew up, there was nothing like that. So there was no way I would be close to the set where I see how this thing is done. So I just thought to myself, there should be someone back in Limpopo who want to be in the film industry, and they don't know how. Joburg is too far, Cape Town is too far. How about I take it down back to the Limpopo province, where people who want to be like in this industry, they can have a chance to come and see how these things are done. So they will have an opportunity to be close to set, something that I never had growing up, wanting to be a filmmaker. Yes.
Yeah, but also, I ask you with tongue in cheek, but also understanding, everything that you've just said about exposure in areas where certain industries don't have prominence, for skills development and things of that nature, but also understanding that other provinces' stories need to be told, right? There's more to being South African than just telling the stories that come out of Durban, Cape Town, and Johannesburg.
That's very true. We need to tell all stories from all different places, and we need to show what's happening in other provinces. And unlike like normal things that is happening in Joburg, where everyone is seeing it on television all the time.
So you started filming in 2021 during COVID.
Yes.
Why would you start a project during COVID?
But this was towards the end of COVID. I think they were on level 1?
Okay.
In 2021. Yeah. So it was not like 2019.
Okay. So you started 2021, and then I presume you then, obviously because of some challenges and things, a few breaks here and there, to then finish the project this year. That's quite a long process. How do you then just ensure, especially as a director and a producer of a project, how do you ensure that you yourself are still very much locked in and still committed to the story that you're telling?
Honestly speaking, this was very close to my heart. So I'll make sure that each and every time I'm working something and go looking for fun for this project since 2021. Since we finished the principal photography, then we went and looked for finance for post-production and after post-production. And bear in mind, I'm the editor as well. So I made sure that throughout from 2021, I'm working on the project.
Wow.
So there was still a lot that I was still doing, cutting, doing music. Then we had to go look for funds for marketing and all that. So I was still locked in the project since then.
Wow. Okay. A man of many hats. Let's talk quickly about the cast members, because you've got some really incredible casts that are part of this, including Dumsane Bembe.
Yes. And it was very interesting working with him. This was my first professional film. Then having to work with such talented actor, like Dumisani. I remember the first day seeing him, I didn't even know what to say to him. And when we got set, you can imagine. And when we go to set, he's just an incredible person. And because of his experience, he will talk to me. And I have learned a lot from him. And he's easy to share because we've been in big sets. So in sometimes I'll sit down with him and he will guide me and we will talk. You see, so it was very nice.
So it was a great experience, give or take a little bit of the challenges of just producing here and there. But all in all, it sounds like, it was a great journey for yourself and the cast. Tell me, where is it currently where is it currently flighting? And do we know if it's going to have a nice, healthy run? Oh, I'm presuming opening week has already happened.
Yeah, the opening has already happened and we are done with cinema now.
Okay.
We were on the new metro across the country and Sekeniko. But at this particular moment, we are just waiting for the VOD. Let's just say, let's hope for maybe later next year as we're still discussing with the distributors to have it on the VOD.
Okay, lovely stuff. Joseph Mutapule, thank you so much for the time. That was director of The Bad Bishop. So you and I have missed it on the cinema circuit, but as you said, as you hear him say, that there's conversations for it to go out on VOD, and hopefully we can catch it on our streaming platforms at some point in time. There's been some incredible content coming out of South Africa these days by way of film. Lots of uniquely South African stories and angles being told. It's just gone 2 o'clock. Let's take a quick pause here and then we'll come back and we'll catch up with the UJ Weekend of Jazz.
In August, we celebrate our amazing women farmers who nourish and clothe our nation.
Farmers and researchers and academia can work closely.
Catch Living Land on Sundays at 11 a.m. on SABC2.
Victory in the opening match always sets a good tone, and that's what the Gunners of London are gunning for.
They've almost scored! Kai Havertz! And Arsenal have won it late on.
Meanwhile, the Wolves are on a real mission to howl for 90 minutes in search of essential 3 points.
Wolves have a second! And listen to the noise!
This is the Premier League. Witness the thrilling encounter between Arsenal FC and Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday, 17 August at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. Stages, pages, screens and more on The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga.
All right, we are talking the UJ Weekend of Jazz with the organizer of the festival, Larkin Morgan. Bashis joins me now, the University of Johannesburg's Arts and Culture, which is a division of the Faculty of Art, Design and Architecture, is thrilled to announce the return of the much-anticipated UJ Weekend of Jazz, and it's taking place on the last weekend of August from the 29th until the 31st of August at the UJ Arts Centre. How are you doing this afternoon, Larkin?
Always good to hear from you, Bridget.
Thank you so much for taking the time, and we always appreciate it. Exciting stuff for music lovers in the city with the UJ Weekend of Jazz.
Absolutely. You know, it's back in town. We do it every 2 years. And this year it's just jam-packed with some young, intergenerational artists to really give our audiences a feast for their eyes and their ears.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice sort of opener to the jazz season, because we know we're about to embark on the big jazz concerts moving into spring, and this is a nice way to also get people excited about the new voices in jazz.
Absolutely, Bridget. We strategically have positioned ourselves on the cusp of this jazz moment, as you know it to be. As South Africans, we know the build-up towards the jazz season, and that's exactly why we chose this time of the year. It's really just a moment where you can sit and enjoy young artists that are coming up, that have already made a name for themselves, and to see it in a space and a place that has when you hear it, it sounds amazing. When you feel it, it sounds amazing. And the audiences that you are enjoying this experience with is an intergenerational audience. So many times we think that jazz is for our older folks, but actually we're seeing more and more that there's an intergenerational link and appreciation for jazz that is growing, particularly in Gauteng.
And you know, when you talk about that intergenerational link, Larkin, it makes one also think about the incredible sort of collaborations that we've seen with jazz artists coming out of the more traditional format of jazz and playing so beautifully with different genres in recent years.
Absolutely, and we're seeing that even with Keenan John Mayer, who's on our Saturday night, the 31st. Keenan's just launched this morning launched a single off his upcoming album, and it's completely a mixture of international sound, truly authentic South African sound, but it touches you in a way that I think people will enjoy, people will feel touched by and captivated by.
Let's talk about some of the folks that are going to be on the lineup today. I know that a lot of people are probably going to be excited alongside the likes of Keenan Mayer. You also have Mandla Mlangeni coming through.
Absolutely. Mandla is an absolute favorite of ours. Mandla's been in the game for a very long time, and his music has developed to such a place where you can hear Mandla's trumpet, you can hear him. It's iconic. It's his signature, and we're seeing through the Tune and Recreation Committee come through all the way from Cape Town to bring this to a Joburg audience. So we're quite excited about having Mandla back on our stage. And then, of course, we've got Gabi Ntombu on the Friday night with her new album, The Sabbath. And Gabi's been working and crafting her sound for a very long time, and we're quite excited because she too is launching her album, The Sabbath, at the UJ Weekend of Jazz.
Oh, wonderful. So there's some special treats there for your audiences.
Absolutely, and we curated it in that way so that people are not coming to hear the same sounds. What I can give our audiences is an absolutely unique experience, from Mandla bringing the TRC to Joburg, to Gabi's new album, The Sabbath, and then Keenan John Mayer's The Reawakening, which will premiere at the UJ Weekend of Jazz.
Wonderful. As we wrap it up, Larkin, so 29th till the 31st of August, and we're at the UJ Arts Center. By way of ticket bookings?
Absolutely. You can book your tickets on our website. It's through plankton.mobi. The tickets are only 230 Rand, so in jazz language, that is a steal. So I encourage people to really come through, bring your friends. I always say it's not a ticket, it's tickets. So bring a plus one. You never enjoy art without somebody right next to you.
Absolutely. Larkin, thank you so much for the time. Always a pleasure. That was Larkin Morgan, organizer of the UJ Weekend of Jazz. It's happening on the 29th until the 31st of August at the UJ Art Center. And of course, those tickets going for 230 Rand. Quite a steal considering the lineup of incredible, young jazz artists. We call them young because they're just young by age, but by way of experience and their contribution to the genre, definitely some heavy hitters there. It should be an incredible one to go through. So if you are a fan of the genre, you're just looking for something slightly different from the usual that you normally do, this should be an exciting weekend. It's fast approaching 10 to 2 o'clock. We've got Nali Bali coming through, and that's going to run us to the top of the hour. Your 2 o'clock news are coming up on the other side.
It's Elimination Week on the Tastemaster Junior. This Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2 as the bottom 6 bake to stay in the competition. It's all about desserts as the contestants recreate their versions of a family favorite, warm and comforting pudding. But will it be enough to impress the judges and earn them a spot in the next round? That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday at 7. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Hi, my name is Kamogelo and I am a lifesaver. Through a chance encounter with the DKMS Africa team at a nearby mall, I decided to register to become a stem cell donor and potentially give someone else a second chance at life. Every life is precious, and after I was made aware that I could give someone else a second chance at life, all it took to register was 3 swabs, a quick and easy process. You too could be a potential lifesaver in the making. Register to become a stem cell donor at dkmsafrica.org.
20 outfits of the Premier League are back on the battlefield for another spectacular season, with ambitions to play the world's most competitive and compelling football.
Rodri! City 3! West Ham 1!
This is the massive fight for the ultimate glory.
Caicedo, is he going to try and beat him from inside his own half? Oh, Moises Caicedo! I can't believe it! What a way to score your first Chelsea goal!
Experience the 2024-2025 Premier League season on Saturdays at 3 p.m. live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Hello friends and welcome to another episode of Nali Bali. What sport do you play at school? I'm asking because participating in school sports can improve your self-esteem and help you feel better about yourself. Having physical education in the school curriculum allows you from a young age to develop the social skills to work with other teammates, make new friends, and learn how rewarding it is to work hard. How your contribution impacts your team's success can be incredibly empowering. The self-confidence you gain from participating in sports and physical education carries over to other areas of your life, such as academic studies and personal relationships. Let's listen to today's story called Sports Day, written by Lorian Preston. But before we listen to today's story, let's all get up and dance! One morning, at the start of the school day, Miss Boyce said to her class,
"Children, I have something very exciting to tell you."
Yay! Cheered the class. They liked exciting news.
On Friday, we're going to have a sports day. It is a day to have fun and be active outside. You will do all kinds of exciting physical activities, like running and jumping over hurdles, long jump, high jump, tossing a ring on a cone, hula hooping, tossing a ball into a bucket, and jumping in a sack.
Hooray! Cheered the class. They were looking forward to sports day. The only person who didn't cheer was Sipho.
What's wrong, Sipho?
Asked his best friend Imita.
I'm not good at sports.
Sipho replied sadly.
Don't worry, I'll help you,
said Imita. Luke, who was sitting on the other side of Sipho, was a kind boy. So he said,
I will also help you.
At break, the children practiced for sports day by having a running race across the playground. Imita, who was a natural leader, got the children to line up at the end of one of the playgrounds. Sipho lined up next to Luke, but Sipho looked worried. Luke turned to Sipho and whispered,
What's wrong?
Sipho looked at the ground and whispered back,
I'm not very good at running.
Luke tried to make Sipho feel better, so he said,
I'm not fast either. It'll be fine. We can just try our best.
Then Imita shouted,
Are you ready? On your marks. Get set. Ready. Fire. Go!
All the children charged forward like rockets blasting off into space. After 2 strides, Sipho stumbled over his own feet and fell onto the grass. He wasn't physically hurt, but he was upset that everyone had seen him fall.
I told you I wasn't good at running.
Sipho said sadly to his friends.
Never mind,
said Imita.
Let's just try the long jump.
Sipho's heart sank.
Oh no, this is going to be bad.
He thought to himself.
Come on everyone,
shouted Imita.
Make a line so we'll see who can jump the furthest.
Sipho wanted to hide, but he lined up with everyone else. When it was his turn, he closed his eyes and jumped as far as he could. Even though he tried his best, his jump was the shortest.
Maybe I can just ask my granny to keep me at home on Friday.
Sipho sighed.
No ways,
declared Imita.
We'll find something you're good at and that you can enjoy.
For the rest of the week, during the week, Imita and Luke encouraged Sipho to try out all the different sports day activities. Despite trying his best, Sipho wasn't very good at any of them. Every day, Miss Boy reminded the children that sports day was not about winning. It was about taking part and having fun. Sipho was still worried. None of the activities had been enjoyable for him. In fact, he found them all to be awful. Friday arrived, and the children were all dressed up in their sports clothes. Everyone was so excited, except for Sipho. Before the activities began, Miss Boy called Sipho over to her desk.
Sipho, I've noticed that you've been very unhappy. Is everything okay?
Miss Boy asked. She was concerned about Sipho. He was usually such a happy and helpful child.
Miss Boy, I'm not good at sports,
said Sipho looking at the ground.
Please don't be sad, Sipho,
said Miss Boy.
I was actually going to ask you to help me with a very important job for sports day.
Sipho immediately looked alert and excited.
I need someone I can rely on to be my helper. Would you be interested in that?
Oh, yes, please,
said Sipho, smiling like the sun had just come out from behind a cloud.
Great!
Sports day began. Sipho helped Miss Boy set out the equipment for each activity. He helped her with the hurdles, the cones, the hula hoops, and all the other equipments. He loved being a helper and was proud of his important job. As the day went on, Sipho's confidence grew. He cheered on his friends as they ran races and jumped over hurdles. At lunchtime, Sipho sat with his friends.
Are you enjoying sports day?
Asked Imita.
Well, duh! It's the best!
Said Sipho. Imita and Luke smiled. They were glad to see their friend looking happy again.
You're a great helper, by the way,
said Luke. Sipho beamed. He realized that Miss Boy was right. Sports day wasn't just about being the best at sports or winning every event. It was about taking part, having fun, and enjoying the day with your friends. Sipho hoped there would be sports day every year. And so we come to the end of another Nali Bali story time. Today's story was called Sports Day, written by Lorianne Preston. Did you know that reading and telling stories to children at home can help them do better at school? If you want free stories to read to your children or for your children to enjoy on their own, visit Nali Bali website www.nalibali.org or Mobi site www.nalibali.mobi. You will find stories in 11 South African languages, as well as tips for reading and sharing stories with your children to grow their potential. Also look out for the bilingual Nalibali Reading for Enjoyment supplements with great children's stories and activities available in newspapers. Nalibali, it starts with a story.
Top stories at 2 o'clock. Ramakgopa withdraws nuclear power procurement process and a powerful typhoon wreaks havoc in Japan. Good afternoon. The Electricity and Energy Minister Kgosientsho Ramakgopa has withdrawn an earlier government gazette for the procurement of 2,500 megawatts of nuclear energy generation. The move comes after EarthLife Africa, the South African Faith Community and Environment Institute interdicted the process. They've argued that there's been insufficient public participation. Ramakgopa says although government received concurrence from the National Energy Regulator of South Africa to start the procurement, the process will be halted for a second public participation. Speaking in a special media briefing in Pretoria, Ramakgopa said the applicants had requested more transparency.
The last thing we want is to do a major build program on the back of suspicion that the department and government is hiding something from the public. So I said we are going to democratize this process, we are going to make it transparent, and on the basis of that, I then directed that it is important that we accede to that request. Essentially saying to council, we are agreeing on what EarthLife Africa is saying and the other party, that this process must be subjected to an additional, if you like, public participation process.
Trade union AMCU has expressed disappointment that no one has been convicted for the deaths of 34 mine workers in Marikana near Rustenburg in the northwest, 12 years after the tragedy. The deaths occurred after the police gunned down the miners during an unprotected strike. 10 more people were killed before that fateful day. The AMCU leadership made the statement during the commemoration of the Marikana massacre, which is currently underway on the infamous Kopi. The union president, Joseph Matunjwa, is expected to address those who have gathered for the event. Sentencing procedures against the 4 men convicted of the murder of Mokoena Mabusela Leshabane and Tebogo Mputi have started. Tembelani Dlamini and Bekisenzo Piose will have sentences meted out against them by Judge Gerrit Müller. The state submitted its closing argument that the murders of the 2 women should serve as a deterrent for would-be criminals. Katle Honyoni reports.
The wait is finally over for the families of the victims, that is Mokoena Mabusela Leshabane and her business partner at the time, Tebogo Mputi, who were shot and killed execution style at an industrial park in Polokwane back in October 2020, while Stanley Leshabane, Ndondo Buthelezi, Tembelani Dlamini and Bekizenso Piose have been found guilty and have been convicted of murder, while Judge Gerrit Müller is expected to hand down the sentencing.
Firefighters have successfully contained a fire that broke out at an abandoned building on Umbilo Road in the Durban CBD. Traffic was severely affected along this route due to the smoke. Divisional Commander of 4 eThekwini Fire, Ngabakazi Ngohorara, says no injuries have been reported.
Upon of our arrival, the building was well alight. We managed to extinguish. Now the fire is under control. No person reported missing or injured. We don't know the cause of the fire, but it's an abandoned building.
And finally, further afield, a powerful typhoon is bearing down on the heavily populated Kanto region of Japan, leading to the cancellation of hundreds of flights and bullet trains. Typhoon Ampel is forecast to skirt past the Japanese capital, Tokyo, packing winds of over 160 kilometers. This tourist had to change plans.
Right now I'm stuck in Tokyo due to the typhoon, and my next step is to go back to the hotel I was staying at previous, so I can maybe book a room there for the night and then maybe try to travel to Osaka tomorrow.
Recapping the top story, Electricity and Energy Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa has withdrawn an earlier government gazette for the procurement of 2,500 megawatts of nuclear energy generation. Headlines at 2:30.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game. Victory in the opening match always sets a good tone, and that's what the Gunners of London are gunning for.
They've almost scored! Kai Havertz! And Arsenal have won it late on.
Meanwhile, the Wolves are on a real mission to howl for 90 minutes in search of essential 3 points.
Wolves have a second! And listen to the noise!
This is the Premier League. Witness the thrilling encounter between Arsenal FC and Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday, 17 August at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
Reflection. So all that I have to say must penetrate. You are my reflection. There's no other way to communicate. You are all I need to survive. You help to sustain my life. I don't know what I would do without you. Because if I don't breathe, you don't exist. My smile in the morning, my healthy morning meal, my prayer in the afternoon. I call on you. I wake you up in me. Deep, deep in the center of my being, you are indeed a reflection of me. Nothing I can't bear. You are my weapon against enemies. Sometimes people think I'm crazy, cause with you, I see no boundaries. A no-limit soldier. A woman who's bear fruit and named him after you. Love with you is real, I have no doubt. Cause every time I speak,
I always think of you. I think of your eyes. I always think of you. And I think of your smile. Do you ever think of me? Think of my child. I always dream of you, being in your arms.
It is My Reflections, the Osen Lade coming through, one of the greatest to ever do it by way of being a dance lounge music producer, collaborated with a whole host of people, including some really iconic South Africans in that particular space. And there was a time when Osen Lade would frequent South Africa quite regularly. In fact, gone are those years, I tell you. Right now, though, we're shifting focus just a little bit for stages, pages, screens, and more. And we're catching up with the fashion designer turned visual artist Sylvester Falata joining us now. And you've got to pardon. You've got to pardon my Sisutu here, Sylvester, as I try to navigate my way. How are you doing? Are we still getting Sylvester on the line? All right, we're still getting him on the line. But we want to talk about this new exhibition, Manyelo Alisedi. And I'm pretty sure that I probably didn't get the inflections right. Manyeloi, there we go. Manyeloi Alisedi is the name of the exhibition, and we want to find out more from Sylvester about it. It's a culmination of his ongoing exploration of spirituality and faith, and it's inspired by Maya Angelou's poem To Our Grand. On the line, we're going to have this conversation with him. He is on social media if you want to have a look at the series of work that he's been producing over the last couple of years. His handle is at Sylvester Falata on Instagram, and the body of work is documented there quite incredibly indeed. Like I said, he was a fashion designer, still is, at the height of COVID, to start listening to the visual artist voice within and started producing some work on canvas, and a lot of his focus has been on that in recent years. Perhaps let's take a quick... Oh, he's on the line. How are you doing, Sylvester? Are you good?
Hi, Bridget. I'm right. Thanks to yourself.
I'm fabulous. Thank you for taking the time. Good to be chatting to you. Good to be chatting to you as we talk about this upcoming exhibition. And I know that, in recent years, when you decided to sort of put down the scissors and the fabrics and, pack away the cutting table for a little bit and put up the easel and start focusing more on the visual element of being creative, you've really taken to telling the story of the women that have impacted your life, the women that have come from your lineage. And for you as an artist, why is that so important, to explore those themes?
It forms the foundation of who I am, and it influences everything I've done and everything that I do. So it's the common thread in everything that I do and who I am. So I think it's like such a small gesture that I can kind of do or make to just acknowledge the women that have played like a big role in my life. Mm-hmm. I mean, from the beginning of my career, I don't know if you remember, we had this conversation 3 years ago when I was just starting out. So it is quite a full circle moment to literally be putting together my first solo exhibition. And
Yeah, and interestingly enough, is you started off sort of one way with your visual discipline, and it very quickly found expression with what I call the tiny people, and that's where you've lingered for quite a while.
That's true, and they've become a talisman of sort. I remember they started with Maya Angelou's poem to our grandmothers. There's a stanza that says, "I come as one, but I stand as 10,000."
Yeah.
It's really, really, really become something that I keep referencing in all of my work. One way or another, I'll keep going back to that because it's just a reminder that we don't stand alone. I don't stand alone. None of us do. And it's the same intention behind this series where I explore spirituality more, but an invitation to really step out of the box and invite mystery into it. Because the moment we put in a box, we start othering each other, we start, and it's an invitation to take it all the way back to the basics where we half of it we don't know, but we instead go inward and kind of reflect and have internal dialogues and see how that is reflected outwards and how we treat each other.
I'm always interested, Sylvester, in sort of the journey for artists, especially when they tend to explore particular themes around spirituality, around faith, around identity, because I often assume that comes from your own personal space of seeking. And so I wonder, as you then are in communication with the canvas through your creative, what kind of journey that has taken you through as an artist?
That's such a good question. For me, it is a very personal journey, and throughout the years, I think I've become a lot more comfortable in articulating it through the canvas, firstly, and then being able to find the words to kind of explain and express where I was. And with this particular series, I feel like it's my most personal and most vulnerable that I've been, where I'm willing to go to tell the truth of my spiritual journey and just what it means to me as an artist, as a human being, and as a spiritual being. Yeah. So I don't hold back.
And so a lot of folks that are getting introduced to Sylvester Falata, he's probably one of the term is often used today in sort of modern social contexts of chakra hands and chakra gods. And Sylvester Falata is definitely one of those. So if there was ever to be somebody who explores the spiritual, I think, because you've been in this conversation with yourself and of course with the environment in which you come of and are born and connected to, if there was ever someone to explore it would definitely be you. So I'm not surprised your first exhibition is a culmination of all of this. But you also invite audiences to come through and introspect and reflect on their own spiritual journey.
Yes, 100%. So we have the exhibition at the Spin Street Gallery in Cape Town. It runs from tomorrow, which is the 17th of August, until the 31st of August. And the gallery opens from Monday to Saturday.
Yeah. What are you hoping? Yeah. What are your hopes in as far as when people engage your work? What are you hoping the takeaway is or the conversation is for them?
Firstly, for us to just pause and think and reflect, and the conversation starts internally with ourselves, where we take down the walls that we've built, figurative and literal walls, and because the peace, the love, all the things that we look for out there start with us inside. And I think that's really, not that I know this is the intention with the series, for us to literally look in the mirror look in the mirror and to quote Michael Jackson, it starts with the man in the mirror.
Absolutely. So Manyeloi Alisedi, which is Angels of Light, as you heard, is opening at the Spin Gallery. Let's talk about the technique. I said to our audiences that they can always go over to your Instagram account because you document your work quite well on Instagram at Sylvester Falata for them to go have a look. But let's talk about the technique of these tiny individuals. It's quite a distinct. It's quite a distinct sort of offering that you bring. If people see it, you'll forever know it as Sylvester's work. It stands out. But they are tiny people.
They are.
How do we accomplish this technically as an artist? Because there's also very much precision in sort of the figures that you present, and one can see them moving through particular spaces. So they're not one-dimensional, as tiny as they are.
It's become very meditative. So I think through the years I've become more fluent in developing the technique. But I'm at the point where it's less time consuming. Rather, I mean, it is time consuming, but I don't focus on the time as it moves. It's more meditative. So I lose myself literally in the process of creating them. And even I've started exploring ceramics. I've started interpreting them into ceramics. So it's fun to be able to do the same thing, but on a different medium.
Yeah, absolutely. And then where to, Sylvester? This, like you said, you sort of hit the canvas 3 years ago, and I'm presuming this is where you are permanently sort of focused right now. This is the direction, the creative output that you've decided is going to further the contribution of Sylvester in the creative space.
Yes, 100%. I've always been intentional and clear about being a global artist, depending on the mediums. Back then it was fashion, and now it is through art. That's the goal for me. It is putting African art. I mean, my version of it, I look at it as a puzzle. So I get to, a mosaic rather, not a puzzle. I get to, put my perspective and my experiences of being an African out into the world and telling an authentic African story from an African. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you've moved into ceramics, and you're moving into and exploring the figures into ceramics as well. How is it working on that medium and translating these little beings into another sort of 3D element?
What I'm learning so far through ceramics is surrender, because it doesn't always turn out the way I kind of have it in my mind. I've had like one or two things break in the process. So if anything that it has taught me is surrender. I'm at the mercy of what I'm bringing to life, and there's something poetic about that, because if then I have to literally surrender to the process and not think about it and not overly labor over it, because that also kind of gets in the way. So it's another level of surrendering beyond showing up on a canvas.
Yeah, but tying back, because what you just said now also ties back, I guess, to that element of being connected spiritually, right? And going through that journey in order to surrender, one needs to have come to that point of acceptance almost.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so it's all one big spiritual journey.
I keep saying, like, if there was ever going to be a spiritual artist, it was definitely going to be Sylvester Falata. So, okay, the exhibition Manyelo Alisedi is happening at Spin Gallery, and it's going to be on for quite a while, and that's in Cape Town. For anyone that finds themselves in Cape Town, you are there all the way through till the end of the month. Do you have anything planned by way of walkabouts and artist engagements during the course of the time?
We have a walkabout planned for next week, Saturday, from 11 until 12:30. But I will communicate all that information on my social media. Please keep a lookout on that. And I've got a few collectors coming through today for a very intimate preview, just to have an opportunity to see the work and
Lovely stuff.
Appreciate it.
We love it. We love it. We love it. Congratulations on this exhibition. Wishing you all the success. And of course, quite interested to see what else and how else these tiny figures find expression in other spaces in the creative realm. That was visual artist as well as designer Sylvester Falata coming through. So Spin Gallery is where it's at. It's Manielo Aliseri Angels of Light, and it's open until the end of the month in Cape Town. His handle is at Sylvester Falata on Instagram if you want to have a look at some of the work that he is producing. It's quite beautiful, actually, quite colorful, quite bold, quite bright, and the tiny little figures that just draw you in because they have quite a lot of dimension to them. So if you are in Cape Town and maybe have some time on your hands, you can go through and have a look at them in real life. Still to come, we're going to be catching up with Lwandle Nkulu, the First Lady of Nkabi Nation. We're going to find out. It seems like she's having an incredible year this year thus far. Did really well at the Metro FM Awards, Metro FM Artist of the Year in 2024. And she's released her album to much excitement and anticipation. It's got a beautiful collection of tracks there. She'll tell us more about her work as well as her story. And then also coming up later on as we wrap up the show today, we're going to be catching up with a young woman that's carving solid careers for those in the world of arts. But we've got some time before we get to the headline news at 2:30. Our lines are always open, by the way, if you want to engage us in conversation, or we get the sense that on a Friday we are keeping you company. We are keeping you company in whatever you're doing, and we don't mind. We don't mind doing that at all. But if you want to engage on anything at all, you're always welcome to do so on our WhatsApp line, which is 061-410-4107. And of course, our studio line is 086-000-2032.
The Rockets know how magical 3 points is in football. They want just that in their own backyard this weekend. But Gunners want to deny them any joy as they are in dire need of victory to escape from the uncomfortable territory. Mpumalanga battles it out with Eastern Cape. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Tears Galaxy Queens FC versus City Lads Ladies FC, the Sunday 18 August at 3 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Yeah, we can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
Winners, finalists, fan favorites, and viral sensations from previous seasons of America's Got Talent return to the stage to compete for the All-Star title. Join Heidi Klum, Howie Mandel, and Simon Cowell as they decide who is the best of the best. The creme de la creme, the top dog, is in Chamatota. It's a festival of talent on America's Got Talent All-Stars. Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. on S3. Channel your best entertainment with America's Got Talent All-Stars. Only on S3. Open up.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
Good afternoon, I am Uzi Lesaku with your headlines at 2:30. The South African Health Professionals Collaboration says it will not be signing the President's Health Compact. The group, which represents more than 25,000 private and public sector healthcare workers, says the compact is essentially a bid to lock in support for the National Health Insurance Act rather than a genuine effort to address the country's healthcare challenges. The Electricity and Energy Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa has withdrawn an earlier government gazette for the procurement of 2,500 megawatts of nuclear energy generation. And the Benchmarks Foundation says it's disappointing to see that over a decade after mine workers were killed for demanding an increase in wages, conditions in Marikana near Rustenburg in Northwest have not changed. Details at 3 o'clock.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
Mina ilindele lokhulu we sukela mili minyaka. Mina ilindele lokhulu we sukela mili minyaka. Mina ngilindele lokhulu we sukela mili minyaka. Oh maye ngilindele lokhulu we nasukela mili minyaka.
Utitwa zike chana lezi lobuso mnotaka. Utitwa zike chana lezi lobuso mnotaka.
Lokhulu we sukela mili minyaka. Mina ilindele lokhulu we sukela mili minyaka.
Wena banga kanjani namantombazana akhuluma isilungu. Mina ngisuka emakhaya shuthi mawona mina wena ubona ubhuqu. Mina ntombi yebhinqa wena udlala ngami manje ngize ngibone. Ngcono uphume kimi mina ngizibone. Utitwa zike chana lezi lobuso mnotaka. Utitwa zike chana lezi lobuso mnotaka.
Lokhulu we sukela mili minyaka. Mina ilindele lokhulu we sukela mili minyaka. Mina ilindele lokhulu we sukela mili minyaka. Mina ilindele lokhulu we sukela mili minyaka. Mina ngilindele lokhulu we sukela mili minyaka. Oh maye ngilindele lokhulu we nasukela mili minyaka.
Ilindele lokhulu we sukela mili minyaka. Lokhulu we sukela mili minyaka.
All right. right, that was Maye. Maye. You know, if you come from the KZN, you kind of, you know that expression very well, Maye. Luan Lunkulu coming through, and that is, of course, kicking us off into the conversation with the multi-award winning artist. So 2024 has been her year. She walked away with the Basadi Awards just this past weekend. She clinched 2 awards at the Basadi Woman in Music Awards, and then obviously had a really incredible sort of take home at the Metro FM Awards earlier in the year with the Artist of the Year for 2024, solidifying her status in the music industry. Very young, incredibly talented, coming from KZN, and Luan Lunkulu has captivated audiences countrywide. How are you doing? Someone says, how are you?
Well,
hello? I think someone must definitely be holding Luan Lunkulu's phone. We're going to try and get her voice back on the line, and hopefully we'll get her back. It's weird. We've been sort of trying to get her on the show since last week. We had a bad connection this week, and finally we set up some time for today. And so we're hoping that we don't have any struggles in having her in conversation with us, but we'll see how that goes. Like I said, she's been the breakaway star for 2023, and I first encountered. Hey Lua, how are you?
Good, guys.
I'm good, Nyapila. I'm good, thank you. I think, hey, I almost got scared there for a second. I heard umuntu on the phone. I was like, Aibo, this is not the voice of Luan Lunkulu. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
You are good?
Yeah.
Fabulous. So you've had quite the interesting 2024. How does it feel to sort of start your year on probably your first project that was so anticipated and start your year on such a high note? Metro FM Artist of the Year Award 2024, as well as the big weekend that you've just had at the Basadi Basadi Woman in Music Awards this past weekend.
Okay.
Luan, can you hear me? Okay, we've got a very bad, I don't know, if the issue is on her team side, but there seems to be some cross connections by way of communication somehow. I'm not too sure. Let's take a quick break as we confer with the team, and then we'll come back on the other side of this.
20 outfits of the Premier League are back on the battlefield for another spectacular season, with ambitions to play the world's most competitive and compelling football.
Rodri! City 3! West Ham 1!
This is the massive fight for the ultimate glory.
Masinga, is he going to try and beat him from inside his own half? Oh, Moises Caicedo! I can't believe it! What a way to score your first Chelsea goal!
Experience the 2024-2025 Premier League season on Saturdays at 3 p.m. live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game. SABC Sport, the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024, celebrates Team SA medalists.
Oh, this is close! Sabine and the South Africans finally get a medal with the silver, and at last, Akani Sabine is an Olympic medalist. I'm really pleased for Sabine.
Everyone has been wishing for a medal for me, and I've got my medal now. I'm really happy with getting the medal.
For the love of the game.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish, see if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mweketi.
Use your heart and not your eyes,
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Well, that was rather unfortunate and disappointing, but we've got to respect our listeners and we've got to respect your time and the fact that you've chosen to be in conversation with us and our guests. And so if our guest teams cannot conduct themselves in a way that honors appointments that have been set down for conversations and interviews, and they and really have us all sounding quite amateurish on air, we take it very personal on behalf of us as a show as well as our listeners who are listening. It's unfortunate, especially because a lot of our listeners are actually fans of Luan, myself included. Big fan of Luan Dlungulu. So it's very, very disappointing how our attempts to be in conversation with her and how that transpired earlier on. But the show must continue to move, and so the show does move with an incredible curator. She is a creative and cultural practitioner, Boitumelo Magosu, and right now curating the exhibition Still Wool and Other Paradoxes, and this is running until the end of October, and it's out at Latitude Center for the Arts, and it's an annual women's group exhibition. But Boitumelo is on the line to tell us all about it. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm well, thank you. And how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time and honoring the invite. Let's talk about, this group exhibition. So it's an annual women's group exhibition. Tell me, by way of conceptualizing it, when did the idea begin to sort of decide on honoring women in this way on a yearly basis?
So with Latitudes Online, we initially an online platform of selling art within Africa and the diaspora. So with this year, we held our first annual women exhibition last year with a lot of galleries and independent artists and gallery represented artists. And with this year, because our space is almost a year open, and this is where we normally have our R&B Latitudes Art Fair, we thought there's no way for us to not do another annual show dedicated to women and celebrating women in the journey of female or women artists within the industry. And that's when Still Whole and Other Paradoxes came about, to celebrate the journey of multifaceted essence of womanhood, where strength meets fragility. And it's beautifully curated with my co-curator Denzel Inyati, whereby we both run and manage Latitude Center for the Arts.
Yeah.
So that's how Still Whole and Other Paradoxes came about, and the exploration of materiality. That's pretty much where the whole idea came about, and what a beautiful show.
Can we get into the title of the exhibition, and maybe if you can unpack that for us as well? Still Wool and Other Paradoxes. Help us, the layman, understand the thinking behind it.
So thinking behind Steel Hall and other paradoxes, well, Denzo and I were just coming back from a studio visit by visiting Oluwatu the Force. And with her work, the point of departure there, she works with a lot of materials.
Yeah.
And specifically Steel Hall. And when we thought about Steel Hall, we were like, okay, this is materiality. It's something that you can see, something that is familiar within the domestic households, and it could be that women are the ones that are actually very connected when you do your grocery or your kitchen setup. You will always have to have steel wool because it's a material that we always use, but also what's so beautiful about the material on its own, it's so soft, but it has hardness. It's like a harsh nature to it, and it does what it has to do with the pot specifically.
Yeah.
And other paradoxes, the flow of it actually comes from the indigenous knowledge concepts that we have within the exhibition on its own when you visit the space, where we are working with different artists, but there's also other paradoxes in terms of identity, the black body, women on its own, the coexistence of harshness, of softness, of fragility, of tradition and innovations that are being all intertwined into one. So this becomes that cultural inheritance and legacy of this rich tapestry.
Very interesting, and I think more interesting also that the idea was sparked by Oluwatu DeForce, and I don't know, our listeners that are not familiar with her work, she's always used very intriguing sort of materials to express her disciplines, and evolved even through the years in how she sort of found expression through her work. Is she going to be part of the female exhibition that is happening?
She is part of one of the... Well, we have 3 of her works that are showing currently, and the Steel Hall and other paradoxes. There's one particular favorite work, and I would advise anyone to go through social media on Latitudes Online, or actually come to the show and see it for himself, whereby there's a whole work on board, but it's coming out. So one of the other concepts, which I didn't mention, was to have artworks off the wall. And literally, that work on its own is just coming out of the wall. And it also comes in a form of sculpture, of installation. And that's where the Steel Hall is all over on the floor, which is so beautifully represented. And I wish for people to come through, experience it, and learn about all of the works that are in this space.
Right. It sounds quite interesting. I think one will definitely set this down in the calendar. Can I be one of those cheeky people? And Nelson Makamo last year at his showing at Investec Art Fair actually had a big graphic as you entered the studio that says,
I remember. I
still prefer your old work.
It's something similar to that.
So as you talk about Oluwatu DeForce, in my mind I'm going, I still prefer the old work of copper staples and blowtorch. That was such incredible work at the time, but artists have got to evolve.
You have to evolve. You have to also translate the way you're moving and growing and manifest the countless forms of how your work grows.
True. The exhibition brings together established artists and emerging female artists as well, and you've got quite the rock star list of artists that are going to be participating, even the likes of Mary Sibanda, and of course another iconic sculptor, Nandipa Ndambo, coming through for the exhibition.
Yes, they are also part of the number of lists of the artists that are participating under this exhibition. We have a nice diversification of 13 artists. Some are young, old, but also I think the most important part is to see how all of these voices coexist in one space. But also it's the thing of passing on knowledge within the industry. From one young artist to another, and just the wisdom and encouragement that flows like a river. It's beautiful to see how they all are interconnected and they're able to have a conversation within themselves.
I'd also love to sort of labor on part of the theme for the conversation that you're presenting through this collective work is this theme of exploring what it means to be a woman within the context of today, because it's something that's very central to all the conversations that we keep having amongst ourselves as community of women in South Africa.
Very true.
And what does that mean, and how does that sort of present itself through the exhibition and through the various works that are coming through in terms of what they're going to be interrogating or, the lenses that they're going to be magnifying?
I mean, from my own take, it would be there's an archival practice that's happening in a flow of knowledge passed on from one generation to another. Within the context of celebrating women, is that all our journeys are multifaceted. They're different. Our walks of life are different. The one and true thing is to own you, to love you, to care about the next generation, to nourish the current, and create a legacy and resilience, and most of all, that softness and hardness, fragility can coexist. And it also comes in a form of healing. Because having, let's say, within the work on its own, there's works that are abstract, there's works that are made out of clay, and just to see how different materials on its own can coexist and tell a story that is unified and connected and connects to many people in very different ways. It's the way one should celebrate a woman, because we have different ideas. We are different. We are individualistic, if I can put it that way.
Yeah.
And every human being or every woman or womanhood on its own, it's very different. It's multiverse, and we can all share knowledge from different views of life, from different walks of life. And to have that knowledge base and to archive it, I think for me, it's one of the biggest achievements as a curator, and to have that care practice with artists.
Let me ask you this, Boitumelo, as a cultural practitioner, a creative and cultural practitioner, the space that women like yourselves, especially those behind the scenes, those who are not necessarily creating, but rather curating and bringing and shaping the stories from behind the creatives. How important is it? How important is it a role to play in the here and now? Believing that also art is a reflection of the present, but also it will allow us a window into the past for future generations.
For me, it's let's say maybe how I can unpack a little bit of how I started. Coming from the Northwest, I did not know pretty much anything about curatorial work, and I had access to a curator who opened my eyes, and seeing a black woman curating and having these strong narratives and introducing this part of the area in the Northwest, connecting us to art. I was just like, I'm inspired, and I want to carry this practice and know how to put together information and collect and create this collective memory of stories, and through conversations, through writing, through physical exhibition shows, and through a curatorial stance, is to create this knowledge-based system. Maybe my first love is archiving and actually getting stories from the horse's mouth and writing it exactly how they say or how they speak about it in that moment. I feel like it's so vital to always have these systems, these indigenous systems of caring and keeping and preserving collective memory of different parts of stories.
Often the sort of the misunderstood part, I think, maybe of of creating is, as you say, the collection of the indigenous knowledge systems, right? And how we archive that. And I wonder, do you think enough is being done around that? Because as you talk about sitting in conversation, for instance, with visual artists and capturing verbatim how they tell their stories, very important for when they are not around, and we seek to understand what was the motivation and the intention behind their work. Instead of leaving it to interpretation, a record of sort, I think maybe is an important part of history.
Very true, and I echo what you just said now, and I feel it's very important, and I personally feel like more work can be done. More systems and structures can be put in place so that it becomes, let me say an example, a book of knowledge.
Yeah.
Books that we can reference and learn about in schools rather than having to hear about it when it reaches like a certain point, but introduce us into the educational systems. Let's know about our artists within the contemporary art within Africa and the diaspora. Let's learn about our people. I think it will be a very nice way to keep the knowledge running, to keep the knowledge flowing, and for us to know about these artists that we work with, and to have insight of their studios and know what their motivations are and what their voice artistically, creatively is about.
Thank you so much for the time today. So just a quick recap. Stillwool and other paradoxes, it's running until October. For those that want to catch it, just the reconfirmation of the venue, and of course whether or not you have stuff planned between now and the end of October on the itinerary, curator engagements, artists, workshops and talks and things of that nature.
Place that would be accessible, and how everyone can keep engaged and know when to visit the space or what kind of programming is coming up, is to stay connected with our social media on Instagram, Facebook, and one platform where we also very much so communicate what's happening within the space itself is to go on Latitude Online, subscribe to our newsletter. That's how also you would know what is happening, what is about to happen, and also get a full volume of different arts in different parts of the world, and also to keep engaged with the show.
Wonderful. We appreciate the time with you today. That was Boitumelo Magosu, and she is a creative and cultural practitioner. And of course, she partnered with Denzo Nyati to co-create Stillwool and Other Paradoxes. Latitudes Online is where you go. It's also a great resource if you want to go and find out who are the emerging artists, the next wave to look out for and to keep a keen interest on. They do a very good job of curating those, not only from South Africa, but as well as the diaspora, and present them to you. And then, of course, they always have the big Latitudes Art Fair, which happens annually. It just happened about 2 months ago, right here in Johannesburg. A wonderful space to come and engage art. And once again, just bringing together the established and the emerging under one roof. So Latitudes Online is where you can go to have a look at what's on the itinerary for this exhibition. It's running until the end of October, so you've got plenty of time. That is how we wrap up the show today. Listen, when we said we wanted to, we take it easy on Friday, what we certainly never intend to do is for the show to go south live, but it is live radio, and so things do happen in real time, and we have to sort of shift and move and be fluid accordingly to still present you a show. So it's very disappointing that we didn't have an opportunity to speak with Lwandle Nkulu this time around. We also didn't have the opportunity last week, and we moved the conversation to this week. And in this week, her camp also just, we don't know what happened. We honestly have no idea what was happening there with the communication lines, but very, very disappointing indeed. I think for us, it's even more disappointing because oftentimes people will point fingers at, local media and say local media doesn't support, local media doesn't show any kind of love. and we endeavor to do so. Some of us really, really strongly endeavor to do so at every single opportunity. It's the only reason we have these platforms, so that we can shine a light and magnify the incredible creatives of our country. And so when we don't take ourselves and our audiences seriously on both sides, because it's not just an appointment with me, it's an appointment with you, it leaves everybody feeling a little bit disheartened. So it is a shame, but we move nonetheless. I hope you have an incredible weekend. I hope you get to do some wonderful things and create memories, bank the memories with the family. We will see you on Monday. We're going to come in bigger, better and stronger, starting off the week. Inshallah, God willing, we do it again.
The Rockets know how magical 3 points is in football. They want just that in their own backyard this weekend. But Gunners want to deny them any joy, as they are in dire need of victory to escape from the uncomfortable territory. Mpumalanga battles it out with Eastern Cape. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. TS Galaxy Queens FC versus City Lads Ladies FC, the Sunday 18 August at 3 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Serengeti, located on the northern part of Tanzania, bordering Kenya on the north and Ngorongoro in the south. Home to the African Big Five and millions of zebras, birds and other predators. Serengeti 2 returns to the unspoiled corner of the Serengeti for more animal drama. There's humor, heartbreak and nail-biting tension as new characters move in and familiar faces continue their stories. Channel your inner adventurer with Serengeti 2, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.